On our 5th wedding anniversary, I prepared a candlelit dinner for my wife, along with the gift she had always wanted. I thought she would be so surprised, but the only thing I got that evening was a simple line: I have to go on a business trip. The next morning, I scrolled through her social media's anonymous account, finally got the chance to hike in Nepal with Mr. Gray, the man I've liked since I was 19. Oh, right. But my last name is Rockefeller. When Anna returned from her trip, I was about to head out with my fishing gear. I used to love fishing, it gave me a sense of achievement that words couldn't capture. But Anna never liked it because I'd often bring back that fishy smell that made her wrinkle her nose. After we got married, I went less often. But now, I didn't want to keep compromising. Anna came up and gently hugged me. Her voice had a hint of childishness. "George, I've been so busy at work that I forgot our 5th anniversary the other day." I pressed my lips together and replied calmly, "It's fine. Work comes first." "Then, what's the gift you got me?" "It's already on the vanity. You can go look for it." Anna blinked, a bit taken aback. She had expected me to act like I always did, tease her a little, then personally hand her the gift to cheer her up. The truth was, though, I wasn't as calm as I appeared about her infidelity. On our anniversary day, I went to the LV counter early in the morning and bought the bag Anna had always wanted, hiding it carefully in the shoe cabinet. That way, when she came back and took off her shoes, it would be the first thing she saw. I hurried home afterward and began cooking her favorite steak, lighting candles just for the occasion. Everything was set. Excitement and anticipation kept building up, and in my mind, I kept picturing her surprised reaction. But she rushed in, didn't even bother to change her shoes, didn't look at me, and went straight to the bedroom. When she came out, she was carrying a suitcase and dropped the bombshell: "George, the company has an urgent matter. I have to go on a business trip." I stood by the door, watching her walk further away. I ended up cleaning up the dinner alone, feeling a little deflated, but I understood the importance of her work. Fine. I told myself, I'll give her the gift when she comes back. But then, the next morning, I got an automatic push notification from her social media: finally got the chance to hike in Nepal with Mr. Gray, the man I've liked since I was 19. I'm not someone who checks social media often. Usually, it's Anna who fiddles around on my phone. I never minded, after all, she loved doing it. But this time, I couldn't help myself and clicked on it. Instantly, the image stung my eyes. There, on the screen, was Anna kissing some stranger under a snow-capped mountain. I felt like the world was collapsing. My heart was struck like it was hit by a hammer, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I paced nervously, confused, angry, and deeply saddened, my mind spinning with questions that I couldn't process. I kept calling Anna, wanting to ask her, wasn't she supposed to be on a business trip? Who was this man? What was their relationship? But every time I called, the response was, "Out of service area." I kept scrolling through her anonymous account on social media. Finally, I discovered the man's identity: Henry Gray. Anna's first love. Her anonymous account documented every little detail of their relationship, how they met, how they fell in love, all the way to now. The pinned post read, "Maybe the flutter of my heart from my youth was long forgotten, but when you showed up again, I felt like I was 19 all over again." The post was dated 3 months ago. I kept staring at the photo, feeling a strange sense of familiarity. I had definitely seen this man before. Where had I seen him? Where? Perhaps seeing me this cold for the first time. Anna started trying to make conversation. "George, are you going fishing? Don't go, okay? I'm so tired from this business trip. You don't know how unreasonable the client's demands were. I'm so hungry, can you make me something to eat?" Listening to her seriously ramble on, I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. "No," I responded almost indifferently, "order takeout." Anna seemed shocked that I would reject her, because since we got married, I'd always been the one to give in. I shrugged off her embrace and walked out the door without looking back. As soon as I stepped outside, my phone rang. It was my boss. "George, knowing you as I do, I have to ask again, are you really sure you want to transfer to France? With your abilities, you'd do just fine over there, but you've turned me down multiple times because of your wife. Have you really thought this through?" "I've thought it through," I said firmly. "I'm not changing my mind." The company had been expanding into the French market for the past 6 months and had been looking for the right person to lead the effort. They planned to send us there officially in a month. The company had always recognized my abilities and had been eager to recruit me. There was a time I was tempted, promotions and raises are every man's dream. But thinking of Anna, I had turned them down. Even so, the company didn't want to give up on me, urging me to reconsider before everything was finalized. If I missed this opportunity, it would go to someone else. When Anna was young, her parents divorced and started new families. Only her grandmother, seeing how lonely she was, took her in and raised her. Now, Anna had the responsibility of caring for her grandmother, so she wouldn't easily go abroad with me. I still remember the night I told Anna about the offer to move to France. She had drunk too much, tears in her eyes, staring at me with red-rimmed eyes. "George, are you going to leave me too? When I was little, my parents didn't want me. You know Grandma needs me. If you leave, we'll get a divorce." Over the years, whenever Anna and I fought, I always ended up the one to apologize and make up. She knew I loved her enough to always come back, and I did. I had always thought about how Anna would be left all alone if I went, and I couldn't bear it. But in the end, it turned out to be a betrayal. I wouldn't sacrifice my future for her anymore. And I would never want a woman who cheated on me. When my boss heard my firm answer, he finally relaxed. "The company will give you a flight to France at the end of the month." After I finished fishing and got home, the first thing I did was take a shower. Anna, dressed in a seductive lace nightgown, cooed, "George, let me check if you cleaned up properly." Looking at her face, full of feminine allure, I couldn't help but think, did she do this with another man while she was on a business trip? That thought hit me like a cold splash of water, instantly dousing any desire I had. I shook my head. "No, it's too late today." Turning away from her. Anna must have sensed my lack of interest. She forcefully turned me around, her anger bubbling over. "George, what's wrong? Are you still mad about what happened last time? I've told you, it was just a casual college reunion. I was just catching up with some old friends, and I drank too much. My friend just wanted to take care of me when he saw I wasn't feeling well." As she spoke, I finally remembered where I had seen that man. 3 months ago. The day Anna went to her college reunion. Anna is usually a very elegant woman, and that day, she had asked me to help her choose a dress. I set aside my work and carefully picked out one after another. "My wife is so beautiful. Marrying you is my blessing." She laughed, unable to stop. She cupped my face and asked, "Why are you so good to me?" I simply smiled and brushed her nose, "Because you're my favorite wife, and I want to give you the best." I truly felt for Anna and her childhood, so I tried to give her everything I could. Looking back now, I realize how absurd it all was. I helped my wife pick the most beautiful dress for her to meet her first love. Anna wore the red dress I had carefully chosen for her to the reunion. By midnight, when she still hadn't come back, I started to get worried. Calls went unanswered, and I was scrambling to figure out where she was. Then my phone rang. It was Anna calling. I quickly picked up. "Anna, where are you? I'll come get you." A strange woman's voice came through the phone. "Are you Anna's husband? She's drunk. Can you come get her? I'm her friend. We're at." I threw on my coat and rushed out the door. Following the address, I arrived at a KTV. As soon as I walked in, I saw Anna in the arms of a stranger. I was furious and anxious. As a man, I could sense what this other man's intentions might be. I rushed over, shoved the guy away, and scooped Anna up to leave. The man blocked me. "Who are you?" The flashing lights made it hard to see his face clearly. "I'm Anna's husband." "Who are you?" I asked, eyeing him with suspicion. He chuckled lightly. "I'm Henry, just a good friend of Anna's." "Good friend," he said it so intimately. I felt a surge of irritation. But at that moment, I just wanted to get Anna home as quickly as possible, so I didn't focus too much on the details. Back at home, looking at a drunken Anna, I was both angry and helpless. I wiped her down, set up a trash bin, and made some hangover soup. Looking back now, that was probably the start of their reunion. It was also my first encounter with Henry. "You were not feeling well, so why was he hugging you?" I finally couldn't hold back my question. Once trust crumbles, everything, the past, the present, the future, becomes something I start doubting. Anna's voice suddenly became sharp. "You doubt me?" "Yes, I do doubt you. Why is it him who takes care of you and not someone else?" My voice was filled with fury. Each word feeling like it was forced through clenched teeth. Anna's face visibly paled, her eyes full of fear and unease. "You've never been like this before. Why now?" Her voice trembled, clearly startled by my sudden anger. She must have guessed that I now knew about Henry. Anna's tone shifted, becoming warmer. I really only think of him as a regular friend now. Besides, nothing happened between us. He and I are in the past. She tried to explain. But the fire in my chest hadn't dissipated. I didn't believe her anymore. It seemed she still didn't realize I had seen her anonymous account. Anna kept talking, I already have a good husband like you. Why would I need anyone else? I honestly felt like laughing, but it wasn't out of humor. In my mind, I thought, so you'll only admit it once I catch you two in bed together, right? I didn't want to hear any more of her fake explanations. I stood up and walked to the guest room. Behind the door, I could faintly hear Anna crying. This was the first time I'd had an argument and not gone to comfort her. I was tired. We began our silent war, a battle fought without words, only in silence. By the 5th day, Anna finally decided to cook. She must have hoped this would ease the tension between us. Are you done with work? I made your favorite dishes, come eat. Anna called out softly, her voice carrying a hint of hope. I set down my briefcase, looking at the table full of all the dishes I love. I felt a mix of emotions stirring inside me. After we married, I had rarely let Anna cook. To me, marriage wasn't about restricting her freedom. Being with me wasn't so she could just make meals, I wanted her to pursue whatever she desired. George, I'm sorry. I went too far last time. Look, I'm cooking for you. Will you forgive me? Anna tugged at my arm, trying to act cute. If this had been before, I would have happily forgiven her. I cherished the rare moments when Anna showed kindness to me. As a man, I felt it was important to be magnanimous and forgiving with my wife. But now, all those things that once made me feel precious and happy suddenly didn't matter anymore. During these days of Cold War, I tortured myself by repeatedly scrolling through her anonymous account. I read every word, never missing a single comment, zooming in on every photo, analyzing them over and over again. She had written, Henry has a bad stomach and doesn't eat properly. He's so thin, it really worries me. So, out of the goodness of my heart, I made him some food. Under my supervision, he finally has regular meals. His stomach pains have decreased. It's all thanks to me. These words of concern pierced my heart like sharp thorns. Anyone know what to do when someone has a sudden stomach problem? I felt like a thief, sneaking behind the screen, spying on their happy life. And her love for me? It felt like, in a pocket full of sugar, she would look at me with pity and toss me one small piece. Cheap and insignificant. My heart ached so much, I could hardly breathe. Anna dragged me to sit in the chair, endlessly serving me food. Hoping for some response. I neither forgave her nor rejected her. Rarely eat your food. It's really good. Of course, I used to cook a lot when I was in college. Anna suddenly seemed to realize something and stopped talking. I feigned ignorance, asking, cook often? Nothing. Anna hurriedly changed the subject. I couldn't eat any more. I turned and left for work. A deep sense of confusion and pain filled me. I had no idea how to move forward with this marriage. I ignored Anna's flood of text messages that afternoon. After work, I saw Anna waiting in her car downstairs at my office. Her eyes were hollow as she stared blankly at the people coming and going from the building, her eyes swollen and red from crying. The first thing she said when she saw me was, George, do you not want me anymore? Her voice trembled with fear and unease. Why? She continued, pressing me for an answer to calm her nerves. Don't you know? My voice only carried deep pain and confusion. Anna's words were suddenly interrupted. A phone call came in. Anna became flustered. Slightly tilting her head as she noticed I wasn't looking at her, and then picked up the call. But I still caught a glimpse of the screen. It was Henry. The flames of anger ignited in my chest once more. I couldn't help but focus on their conversation. What? Anna's voice was urgent and anxious. I heard snippets of, it hurts, I'm in pain, can you come? Anna nervously looked at me and said, George, my friend's in trouble. I have to go take care of it. She tried to cover up her lie with this pathetic excuse. Take a taxi home. Anna said coldly. In that moment, my resolve was made clear. I watched as Anna sped off, her car disappearing into the night. I sneered to myself, we're both done now, aren't we? Guess other men are more important to you than me. Since you're going. Then I'll catch you in the act. I'm going to see with my own eyes how you handle your friend's emergency. The doubts and anger swirling in my heart drove me forward. A few days ago, I had installed a GPS tracker in her car. Following the route, I found myself at the entrance of an old, run-down neighborhood. I pretended to be a friend of Henry Gray's, asking around for his address. After some effort, I finally pinpointed the exact location. I knocked on the chipped iron door. Inside, I heard Anna's voice. "Who is it?" The door wasn't soundproof, and I could instantly tell it was her. I stayed silent, continuing to knock. "Coming." The door opened, and there stood Anna in an apron, holding a spatula. This was the same woman who rarely cooked for me in the past 5 years. Now, she had tied her hair up and was cooking for another man. When she saw me, her face turned pale, and she stammered, "George, how did you find me?" Fury completely consumed my mind. I pushed her aside and stormed inside. And there he was, the man I had seen in the photos countless times. He was shirtless, his hair still dripping wet, probably just out of the shower. I'm just helping him. He has stomach problems. He just needed me. Anna tried to explain, but I could barely hear her words over my rage. My emotions, suppressed for days, exploded in that moment. "You left me on the roadside to cook for him? Who's your husband, me or him? Our divorce is not as bad as his stomachache." Henry's first words were a blatant provocation. "George, I've heard a lot about you." I couldn't take it anymore. I lunged at Henry, fists flying. "You're hooking up with my wife." I punched Henry again and again. Henry, not backing down, shot back, "I've known Anna longer than you, what do you even count as? If you hadn't gotten in the way, it'd be me with her now." Anna, crying, screamed, "Stop. Stop. George, Henry and I aren't what you think. George, stop. He's sick, he has stomach problems." I was on the verge of losing my mind. I hit him harder. "If I had come a little later, would you two have been in bed together? It's not like that. Then why am I seeing this now? Stomach pain and still taking a shower? Are you kidding me?" Henry, glaring at me, sneered, "You've seen enough, so why don't you step aside? Your bed's way more comfortable than any hotel." I felt disgust rise in my throat. Anna never expected Henry to be so blatant. Finally, a neighbor called the police. The 3 of us were taken in. Both Henry and I had injuries on our faces and bodies. As the handcuffs clicked shut, disappointment filled my heart. My decision was made. I slammed my wedding ring against Anna's face, glaring at her. "Divorce. I don't want you anymore." After leaving the police station, there was a fierce tension in the air. I glared at Henry, whose face bore bruises and a swollen lip. He smirked at me, his eyes full of smug satisfaction. "You lost." I turned to Anna, standing next to Henry, her expression filled with concern for him. "Anna," I said coldly, "I'll give you one last chance. Come home with me, and cut ties with him." I wanted to see, now that everything had come to this, who she would choose. Anna hesitated, wavering for a moment, but in the end, she stayed by Henry's side. At that moment, my heart died. With everything laid bare, Anna no longer even bothered to return home. I packed up my things slowly, preparing to leave for France at the end of the month. I entrusted the house to the real estate agent to be sold as quickly as possible. The bed in that room sickened me. I had done enough for her over the years. I had given her more than enough. I was tired. My love, once overflowing, was now withdrawn. The day before my departure, I went to the nursing home to visit Anna's grandmother. She was a kind old lady. I spent a lot of time chatting with her, and I paid an extra year's worth of fees for her care. I considered this the last act of kindness I would extend after 5 years of marriage. On the plane to France, I received a photo and message from the moving company. "Mr. George, we've packed Miss Anna's things and delivered them to the designated location." The photo showed a pile of her belongings stacked in a cramped, narrow, old hallway. I had also had the divorce papers sent with them. I replied with a simple, "Thank you." I blocked the anonymous number that kept sending me pictures, Anna in the kitchen, and then the 2 of them naked in bed. As the plane took off, I closed my eyes, refusing to dwell on the failure of this marriage. Upon arriving in France, everything went smoothly. Work was progressing steadily, and I had rented a spacious apartment. I even adopted the cute dog I had always wanted. I was healing myself, slowly but surely. 6 months later. I saw Anna waiting outside my company building. She had lost a lot of weight, her under-eye bags were heavy, and she looked completely worn out, so different from the delicate woman I once knew. She had always been so conscious of her appearance, but now she seemed almost like a stranger. Yet I felt nothing but indifference. When she saw me walking out of the building, she rushed up to me, trying to grab my hand. "George. Grandma passed away. I have no family left," she said, her voice breaking, and she crumpled to the ground, sobbing. For a brief moment, I felt sadness for the kind old woman's passing. "George, I was wrong. Please let me explain." I looked at her calmly. "It doesn't matter anymore. What's done is done. There's no use regretting it now. For 5 years, I had willingly pampered her, done everything for her, and she had accepted my efforts with a smile. Now I am tired and let her go free, but she followed me to France to try to keep me. Seeing the people around the company watching us, I didn't want any gossip to spread tomorrow. So I took her home. On the way, Anna tried to grab my hand multiple times. But I kept pulling away. For a fleeting moment, I remembered how it used to be, how I used to reach for her hand. "Anna, what exactly do you want? I've already given you the divorce papers. Didn't you see them? Do you want me to sign another copy?" Anna, choking on her tears, replied, "George, please listen. I was just going to cook for him once." I remained silent. "Henry is a college classmate of mine. I admit that I used to like him, but that was a long time ago." Perhaps sensing my resolve, Anna raised her voice. "He has a stomach condition. That day, he had a flare-up and asked me for help. We didn't do anything, George, I swear. Please, let's start over. Can we try again?" I couldn't help but sneer. "Just cooking for him, huh? Are you saying you only went to cook, or did you do something else? Can you explain that clearly?" Anna froze for a moment, her eyes flickering, unable to meet mine. I took out my phone and opened her secret anonymous account. I scrolled through the photos of her kissing Henry during their trek in Nepal, along with the detailed records she had kept about their past. I laid everything out in front of her. "Anna. Do you think I'm a fool? Do you know how much I was looking forward to seeing your surprised expression on our 5th anniversary? I left work early, bought you the LV bag you had been dreaming about, and even researched which style girls prefer. I cooked all your favorite dishes, only for it all to turn into a complete betrayal." My voice was cold, stabbing straight into her heart. And I couldn't help but feel how worthless my genuine love had been. "When you decided to lie to me about going on a business trip, you had already made your decision." Anna's face drained of color. Her mouth slightly agape, as she quietly tried to defend herself. "I really didn't think about it," she murmured. "Don't tell me you were too excited to notice everything I had prepared." My tone dripped with disbelief and mockery. Guilt and regret flooded Anna's eyes, and her eyes began to redden. "No, George, I love you. Henry's presence only gave me a little novelty. Once that faded, I realized I was still thinking about you. Please, give me one more chance to make it right." She looked at me with near desperation. Her eyes full of pleading. This was a side of her I had never seen before. Her usual pride and dignity had vanished completely. But she had crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I curled my lips into a cold smile. "It's too late. I gave you a chance, and you didn't value it. Please, stop doing these meaningless things. I don't want you anymore." My voice was firm and resolute, without a shred of hesitation. Anna stood there, as if struck by a thunderclap, her gaze blank and unfocused. "How could you not want me anymore? How is that possible? You loved me so much before. You treated me so well, how can you just say no like that?" Her voice trembled, betraying the panic and confusion deep inside her. I looked at her coldly, seeing her refusal to accept the truth and her struggle. In my heart, everything was as clear as day. It wasn't that she loved me so much, or that she couldn't let go. It was simply that I had been too good to her. Now that I treated her with the same coldness, she couldn't accept it. She came to find me, but it was obvious she hadn't had it easy with Henry over the past 6 months. In the first 2 months, things had been sweet. And they were inseparable, doing all kinds of loving things. But slowly, Anna started to realize. Henry's place was far from her workplace. She not only had to go to work, but she also rushed home after every shift to cook and clean. Henry barely helped her and even sold her luxury items for cash. When her grandmother passed, Henry refused to help in any way, even taking the remaining half-year's payment from the nursing home. In that moment, Anna fully regretted it all. She wanted to come back to me, only to find that our home was no longer hers. The house had been sold. She frantically ran to my company, only to hear that I had been transferred to France for work. It was at that moment that she realized the truth: she had lost not just her grandmother, but me as well. I looked at her, my voice calm but resolute. "We'll part ways on good terms. Don't come back into my life. You're free now." I gestured for her to leave. "George, I have nowhere else to go." Seeing Anna hesitate, I felt a wave of irritation. I furrowed my brows impatiently. "What? You want to stay here?" Under the dim lights, she looked fragile. "George, you weren't like this before." I ignored her, turning to walk back inside. "Just 3 months." Anna hurriedly spoke up. "Fine, but you're paying rent." For the first time in ages, I saw a spark in her eyes. 3 months, not too long or too short. She believed that she could win me back. She thought that after all the conflicts we had been through, all she had to do was give me an opening, and I'd rush to console her. But I had already made up my mind. I would let her give up for good. Anna didn't give up. On the first day, she placed the wedding ring that I had thrown away in the most obvious spot. She cooked different dishes every day, like a dutiful wife. She would prepare my clothes in the mornings. She followed me when I took the dog for walks. When I had to work late, she brought me dinner to the office and even took the dog out for me. Everything seemed to have returned to the way it was before, except for one thing: the roles had been reversed. She thought that with all these efforts, she could win back my affection. But everything was just an illusion. All of it was in vain. In France, we secured our first major order in the market. It was a monumental milestone for the company and a shining moment in my career. That day, the celebration went late into the night. The company hosted a grand banquet, and everyone was immersed in joy and pride. Meanwhile, Anna was alone at home guarding the cold food. A female colleague, just a friend, gave me a ride home on her way back, nothing more than a simple gesture of mutual help. But in Anna's eyes, that was the moment I started seeing new women. Fuming, Anna stormed out to confront me. Her eyes fixed on me chatting with my colleague. She angrily demanded, "Where were you today? I couldn't find you at the company. Were you out on a date with another woman?" She shot a venomous glare at my colleague. After asking, she saw my expression was distant, and I ignored her, continuing to apologize to my colleague. Anna broke down, her face twisted in pain, voice shaking with tears. "George, you've changed." In that moment, I thought she was sick. "Don't imagine I'm like you. We're divorced. You don't have a say in my life." I coldly exposed the truth. "Do I need to report to you where I go now? I don't need to use a chicken feather as an imperial edict like you. I'm living openly." I mocked her. Anna deflated, forcing a dry laugh. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "George, I finally understand how you feel. This is what it's like, to feel hope and disappointment, to wait for someone in solitude. It's painful." I felt nothing inside, coldly interrupting her. "Are you done? I just went to a dinner. I never made you wait for me." Without another word, I turned and went inside. In the dead of night, I could still hear Anna sobbing softly, but I didn't comfort her. Her tears no longer moved me. Her pain was no longer my concern. After moving to France, I decided to participate in my first half marathon. I wanted to challenge myself. Without hesitation, I signed up. Even if it was more about participation than winning, I felt an impulse to prove something. I wanted to find that spirited version of myself again. Standing at the starting line, I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, unsure of how long I could keep going. When the starting gun went off, I threw my arms wide and took off, each muscle in my body taut with effort. But my legs felt like they were flying. I made it. I finished in the top 100, a result that even shocked me. Anna had been riding her bike alongside me. When I crossed the finish line, she ran over to give me water, her eyes wide with surprise and amazement. Her voice was full of excitement. "George, you're amazing. I had no idea you were even doing this." She handed me the water, excited to hug me. I instinctively avoided her touch. One of my colleagues leaned in, gossiping. "George, who's she?" I bluntly replied, "The ex-wife who had an ambiguous relationship with her first love." My colleague gave an awkward chuckle. I didn't take the water Anna handed me. Instead, I grabbed a bottle from one of the volunteers. Ignoring Anna, I joined my colleagues to celebrate. She ran after me, grabbing the hem of my shirt. Her voice trembled, "George, don't be so cruel. I really regret it. Wherever you go, I'll be there." I didn't want to hear her regrets on such a beautiful day. I yanked my shirt out of her grasp, cutting her off. "It doesn't matter anymore. We're completely over." 3 months passed quickly. The visa deadline arrived on schedule. Anna wanted to make one last attempt to win me back. I looked at Anna, standing by the bed, her every gesture full of charm, but I felt nothing but disgust. The bed, so carefully arranged, repulsed me. Henry's words, "Your bed is far more comfortable than any hotel bed," pierced me like a needle, deep into my heart. The scar had healed. But there would always be a mark. And Anna's actions, they kept reminding me of that pain. "Please get off my bed. I don't want to change the sheets. And don't make me look down on you. I brought you here to help you see the truth. We can't go back. Is there really no chance for us anymore?" I looked at the woman I had once loved deeply. "From the moment you betrayed me, it was over. If I got back together with you, I could never forget what you did, and I could never treat you the way I did before. Would you still be willing to live with that?" I'm willing, Anna replied, nodding repeatedly. "But I'm not. I can't deceive my heart. Please leave." Anna's tears broke free, and she choked out, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it." She left, and I watched her worn-out figure gradually disappear. I picked up the ring from the bedside table and threw it out the window. That was the final closure to this failed marriage. 2 months later, I received news about Anna from a mutual friend. "George, Anna's in trouble. It's all over the news. Henry's a scammer. Using his looks to trick women into giving him money." After Anna went back to China and found out the truth, she snapped. She waited over a month for a chance, and when she found it, she stabbed Henry. Anna was arrested by the police. Henry's still in ICU. Finally, my friend hesitated before adding, "George, do you want to come back and see? After all." I smiled and replied, "I'm currently pursuing a girlfriend. If she found out, she wouldn't be happy about it. Tomorrow is a new day."